What would you say Trump's IQ really is? Does 160 seem reasonable?
No.
This will be quoted in...
No, 160 is really, really high.
Yeah.
I mean, the typical... The smart person that you're likely to meet in your life has an IQ of around 145.
Yeah.
160 is getting pretty damn rare. And Trump's old, and IQ goes down with age, fluid IQ, although crystallized IQ either stays the same or goes up slightly. So he isn't the problem solver or the learner that he was when he was 20. No one is. If you're in good physical shape, that helps a lot. His IQ is clearly well above average. I don't know. And he's done complex things in his life, and a lot of them. And that indicates that there's something to him, you know, and he hasn't been successful just in one domain. He's been successful in multiple complex domains, each of which were quite difficult. It's very difficult to be a reality TV star that's successful, right? It's very difficult to work in the construction business, and especially on large projects. And I know he's had his economic ups and downs, but he stayed in the game for a long time, very stressful. He's very stress resistant. So he's no dummy. I mean, it's nice to always think that your political opponent is just stupid, but he's done too many complex things for me to assume that he's somehow, if he wasn't smart, he couldn't have done those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you're acknowledging that, because when I see the people that are in hysteric mode and just saying he's this evil nutbag who doesn't know what he's doing and all this stuff, it just seems like such a lazy way of thinking about it. You don't have to like any of the things. You may not like the way he speaks or any of that, but the idea that somehow this is a dumb person, I think, is discounting of just the way humans have to work. This is interesting from Super Chat. Do you have any...
Well, he also won the presidency.
Right.
With a completely original campaign. And it's like, and without spending much money. It's like, okay, is he lucky? Because is that what you're saying? It's just lucky.
Right.
Well, I don't think it was just luck. It was at least maybe, well, it looked at least to some degree like courage. Maybe it was just blind throwing caution to the wind. You know, I don't know if he ever expected that he could possibly win.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you'd argue, it probably had a little something to do with all those things, that maybe there was some courage, but that he also surrounded himself with people who maybe understood politics more than he did. Or
well, he can also obviously read a crowd.
Yeah.
Because he was appealing to crowds. And that was partly because he did, I think, try to say what he thought. Now, you could criticize what he thought, and that's fine. But he also didn't prepare the same speech. You know, he didn't prepare a speech and then deliver the same one everywhere, which I think is, I really find that rather reprehensible for people to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're parroting themselves, or someone else writes their speeches, which is something I can't even imagine.
I can't. For what we do, I can't even fathom it, actually.
Was guilty of premature evaluation. I hear they have a pill for that now. Here's what happened. ABC News reporter Brian Ross released a story claiming that when Trump was a candidate, he told Michael Flynn to contact the Russians. Ross later corrected himself, saying it was actually when Trump was president-elect. Now, Brian has been suspended for a month. And, Sonny, you have a statement from ABC News. Let's hear that.
Yes. ABC News says, "We deeply regret and apologize for the serious error we made yesterday. The reporting conveyed by Brian Ross during the special report had not been fully vetted through our editorial standards process. As a result of our continued reporting over the next several hours, ultimately we determined the information was wrong, and we corrected the mistake on air and online. It is vital we get the story right and retain the trust we have built with our audience. These are our core principles. We fell far short of that yesterday. Effective immediately, Brian Ross will be suspended for 4 weeks without pay."
Okay, that's ABC's.
About this. When it happened in real time, I think everyone who was watching the show could see my discomfort at the room erupting like the Dodgers had just run the World Series. Because I do think holding people to both standards, I remember when Obama was in office, Rush Limbaugh saying, "I want my president to fail," and coming out and saying, "I could never get behind that because if our president fails, it means America fails." Yeah. I feel the same way about Trump. I think if we're celebrating a breach of national security, something that is so egregious that I said this on Friday, it's going to tear our country apart, there's no need to be cheering and celebrating, to each their own, whatever. I will say on the fake news note of this, I went to a Christmas party over the weekend. It's no secret, most of my friends are in conservative media. I feel a lot like I'm an astronaut from a different planet, come here to try and explain both worlds to each other. That's how different I feel on this show sometimes.
Well, as long as your oxygen doesn't run out, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say that Fake news and what we did on Friday, that's what I was being accused of being a part of. And I don't want to sit on a show where I feel like we're giving fake news or reacting irresponsibly, because the cut and short of it is, no matter what happens, and by the way, I think this is far from over, but we should take the information that we have and take it in time and explain it to people, because having one piece of information, which ended up being fake news, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that an impeachment trial will start this evening.
Do you believe that Brian Ross deliberately did that and put it out as fake news?
I don't think it was deliberate, but I think it was fake news.
But that's what fake news means.
The Dow dropped 350 points after it happened. There are real life ramifications.
That might have had something to do with Flynn and Mueller.
But I'm just saying, but it was fake news, and then the Dow dropped. There are real life ramifications to this.
I think
Let me just say one more thing. 71% of Alabama voters don't believe that Roy Moore, they don't believe the news about Roy Moore being a child molester, no matter how many people have come out to say it. That is a complete and total distrust and lack of responsibility on the media's part. Let me tell you.
No, they distrust the women. That has nothing to do with the media.
No, they distrust the media's take on this. They think that it's the liberal media.
They just report what the women say.
But there's such a distrust in our journalists right now that they don't believe what they're saying, because when on election day, the day after, you have a bunch of people going on TV demanding impeachment the day after, you think, and I feel this way, that there is a liberal bias that doesn't matter what happens, that you just want to take down Trump no matter what happens and no matter what happens to the country.
Look, I think Megan is right. There's a bunch of double standards. But I'll tell you what one of the double standards I feel is. I think that if Hillary Clinton had done half of what Donald Trump has already done under a Republican Congress, the impeachment papers would already be
That's true.
I also think that, look, we've got to be very careful and really thoughtful about the difference between fake news, real journalism. To me, fake news is when you make up a story about the Clintons running a sex ring out of the basement of a pizza shop that does not have a basement. Or when you make up a horrible conspiracy story and never even regret it and never apologize for it about the death of Seth Rich. Here, Brian Ross made a mistake. The network took action. He's accepted the action. Everybody's apologized, and everybody's admitting it's a mistake because there was no intent. Fake news is a catchphrase that Donald Trump is trying to use, I think, against real news that's inconvenient for him.
I agree.
And we've got to be really careful.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with that, because and it is a term, I think, that Donald Trump coined, and I think he coined it because it's so convenient for him, and people are believing him. And I think we really need to remember that our right to a free press is not only in our Constitution, it is the bedrock of our democracy. When you don't have freedom of the press, you have places like China, like North Korea, like Vietnam, like Iran, like Cuba. And so, those people that you're referring to that believe, don't disbelieve the media, I hope that they really look very closely at what is coming out of this administration.
Freedom of the press is a right, but it's also a responsibility.
But if you go after every shiny ball with one source, again, I think the media the majority of the mainstream media is so hell-bent on taking Trump down. And again, if he has done something that he should be taken down and impeached, it will come out. I have faith that nothing stays a secret, especially in D.C. too long. But stop taking the bait and jumping, because trust me, President Trump was tweeting about this, that it was fake news. It gives ammo to whatever you think isn't real or is fake.
But a mistake is a mistake. But I mean, the guy made a mistake. And they've already admitted it. So what else can you do about it?
Because I'm trying to explain to you that people like myself included, I say liberal media bias when I'm talking about politics all the time. I talk about left-wing media. I think there is an innate misunderstanding of the anger and frustration against...
Do you think there's a bias at Fox also?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, so it's not just liberal
But I
media
hope
bias.
some of the people Megan's talking about that see this as fake news find comfort in the execution of consequences. Because one thing we say is, oftentimes we watch the president do this and there's no consequence. And then he says there's this media that's left-leaning and biased. This is what happens in journalism when you get it wrong, whether it's fired or suspension without pay. There are consequences for getting it wrong.
That's true.
And that's why I think hopefully people find comfort in that,
And I will say that Fox News exists because so many people feel like they're never allowed to have any conservative beliefs spoken on television on any other network. I'm not saying it's necessarily right, but I'm saying Fox News is #1 in cable for a reason, and there's a lot of people that watch it.
We're very polarized as a nation. We all want to watch things, listen to things, read things that we agree with. And a lot of times that's regardless of whether they're true or not. I think we have a personal responsibilities as consumers of news to verify, to search for credible sources, to search for credible journalists, follow them and read them.
And to check sources that don't go with your belief system. That's something, because it'll give you a more full picture if you don't stay in your echo chamber.
And have diverse friends, by the way.
And have healthy debate and conversation.
You know what, I'm not so,
I want to find out one thing.
sure I want him to succeed at destroying the environment, playing chicken with Kim Jong-un. I'm not so I don't want him to succeed at a lot of things. As you say, we want our president to succeed. No, I don't.
Well, I didn't expect you not to admit that.
I don't.
Well,
do you? So he gets out of the Paris Accords, he antagonizes everybody all over the world.
The things that I thought Obama did wrong and the ramifications that I think my future grandchildren will feel, I still, at the end of the day, I love America. I'm a true patriot. I want Trump to succeed. I want Obama to succeed. I want America to continue
I love America. It's him I can't stand. We'll be right back with more Hot Clear.
I think we view the election, I agree with some of what you're saying. I think that, with all due respect, I spend a lot of time in Red America. I think I understand the Trump voter, and I think to say that they're complicit, there's a lot of people that felt really left behind. I think this election was about poverty. You also said something about Andrew Jackson having a photo in the White House being a siren song or a virtue signal. I don't remember exactly, but something about...
For the viewers that didn't see that, you know, Donald Trump, when he was talking in front of the code talkers, the Navajo Nation, he was doing it in front of a portrait of Andrew Jackson, who was the Indian killer. And he chose to have that portrait in his Oval Office.
And I said it was bad optics, but you said it was a signal. And I think for me, it's like sitting here being like,
well, why
if you
choose
have
that
a picture of Andrew Jackson up, that means that you hate Native Americans.
But why
don't
him
understand.
at that particular meeting?
Can I tell you something? It is, I'm trying to explain my people here on the show every day, and it's an intense challenge. It really is. I try very hard every day.
But which are your people?
And
which are your people?
I consider red state people my people.
Yeah. Hold on.
You didn't vote for Trump.
I did not vote for Trump, but part of it is because of a personal attacks on my father. I couldn't reconcile those two things, but I do think
can't reconcile his racist remarks sometimes.
Why do you think
that are of color?
About the
wait, hold on. Let him finish.
I'm sorry.
I'm really trying. I try every day to explain Trump and his supporters, and I think that I feel like after Obama's election, I tried very hard to understand why he won, what we weren't doing as Republicans, all these things, and I don't think the same respect is being done to Trump, no matter how much you hate him, and I get it. Trust me, I get how much everybody hates Trump. I understand. But I'm just saying, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes that you did in 2016 if you think it's only about you're complicit as this voter, you're whatever, and you don't have to listen to me, but I tell you, before I joined the show, I watched your Election Day episode. I was not shocked in the same way that you guys were by Trump's win. I was not surprised.
You weren't wearing a black veil like Joy?
You weren't shocked as well.
But
that's true, you weren't shocked.
Yeah, no, I wasn't shocked. But here's the thing, really, at this point, he is in there. And I will tell you, I don't hate anybody. I really just like him because what he did, he didn't have to do. He didn't have to come in the way he came in. He didn't have to come in swinging like that. Yeah. And it pissed me off. But I will tell you this, and I'll say this before we go. Unless did everybody say what they had to say?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I'm thinking.
I think it's
thinking.
But I also
great
think that, like, a
conversation.
lot of people know disrespect, and please jump in, Joy. Like, a lot of people hate Mike Pence and Paul Ryan. I had a conversation with him on the train that was like, I don't know who's worse, Trump, Mike Pence, or Paul Ryan. And when you call Bush Hitler, when you call my father Hitler, when you call Mitt Romney Hitler, at a certain point, if you cry wolf long enough, the beast shows up. So I'm sitting here telling you that we have to find some common ground here, and I try every single day, and I feel like I'm failing right now.
You aren't.
No.
Wait. Just everybody hold on. We'll be right back because we're going to finish this.